So I watched the Super Bowl halftime show last night, just like you did. And I was waiting to see if Kendrick was going to perform Not Like Us, just like you was. And he didn't disappoint. Obviously, he performed the record and he gave a lot of people what they wanted to see because he was facing a potential lawsuit if he decides to perform this song. But obviously, he decided to bleep out certain words to try to mitigate the impact of claims of defamation against Drake. And I watched the Super Bowl with, several friends, black, white, mixed, from all different walks of life, and everybody in that room was hyped. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like as a hip-hop fan I wasn't excited. No, I was excited to see if he was going to perform it and to hear some of his other songs. And I thought the way that we was hyped in that room, I thought that's the way everybody, or a lot of people, or most people felt. And until I went online and I was like, oh, people not rocking with this performance. In fact, some are going as far to say that this is the worst Super Bowl halftime show of all time. And that's not hyperbole. So I'm not going to make this video too long. This is what I'm going to do for you all. I am going to break this video down into 4 sections. One, I'm going to give you a quick explanation of all the symbolism of the halftime show that you may or may not have been made aware of. I'm then going to tell you why the country seems to be so divided about this performance from a political/cultural perspective. And then I'm going to give you why the country seems to be divided from a spiritual perspective. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my thoughts. Sounds good? Sounds like a deal? Let's do it. All right, before we jump into it, I just ask if you're new to the show, please know we're thirsty to grow and to drink some of this water. You can help me out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a second to do that. Help me out. Just hit that like button for me. All right, thank you. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to kick this off first by pointing out the fact that Kendrick here is wearing a chain with the lowercase a. And if you don't know, in music, this represents a minor, right? And a lot of you all are going to know what that means, but this is to reference the lyric in the song Not Like Us, to symbolize or to state the fact that Drake is known to be into very, very young girls. Samuel Jackson, playing Uncle Sam, aka the house Negro or the house slave, just like he played in Django. Samuel Jackson was also warning Kendrick to play the game white America wants us to play, us as so-called black Americans, and not be quote-unquote ghetto.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Too reckless, too ghetto. Mr. Lamar, do you really?
The Squid Game stage, which symbolizes the rich unaliving the poor. The dancers in red, white, and blue representing the American flag, which I think that was the most obvious. The stage also being a prison yard to represent the mass incarceration of black Americans, where his black performers harmonized while he rapped. And of course, Serena Williams, she had a cameo, and I think this was supposed to symbolize protecting black women after the disrespect from Drake in several of his songs, as her and Drake has a history, and she's also from Compton. And once again, reminding Drake and America that quote unquote, they are not like us. I think this went over a lot of people's heads, but I think even though it seems pretty straightforward, you have to remember that Kendrick is known for putting on performances like this and having social meanings in his performances. This is nothing new for him. Now, from a political perspective, again, I didn't even think about it from that perspective, but when I went online, I was like, oh, that was like a raid of people that was just like slamming this performance. And we're going to go to Benny Johnson, which, yes, he's a white conservative, but it's important because he not only has a large platform, but there's a lot of people that echoes his sentiment on Twitter. Kendrick Lamar is a Democrat. His producers are Democrats. Everyone who works for him is a Democrat. Why is there no diversity or inclusion or equity in this halftime show? Or does that only work one way? Of all the artists in the world, they pick Lamar guy. Highly anticipated is a stretch. Kendrick Lamar is a radical abortion activist who mocks Jesus. Hey NFL, Trump won. We no longer let talentless, mumbling, pagan, satanic cultists do halftime shows and pretend like people like it. Thanks from everyone. No more rap. We want rock and roll. And of course, you had people who felt differently. This is completely a lie. That was one of the best I ever seen. Elf rating for the halftime show. Bring back excellence in music in the future. Or next year, just let President Trump do a halftime rally. NFL says end racism. Halftime show, zero diversity. Somebody quoted that show was awful and then showed an image of all the people who are stating that the show was awful, which I think is to pretty much say all white conservatives, all white Trump supporters. MAGA's so mad at Kendrick's halftime show, we don't give a F about the unseasoned crowd's opinion. Call it DEI for all we care. We don't give a crap. The halftime show was a soul-pumping, hip-hopping, all-American blackity black, and the orange clown had to sit there and watch it. They are not like us. Rizza Islam, who was a popular influencer, said, notice how none of the women were naked nor half naked during the Super Bowl halftime show. Just letting their gifts and talents speak through their performances. Respect. Samuel Jackson as Uncle Sam was genius. A diss track being a #1 hit record, winning 5 Grammys and being performed on the Super Bowl to everyone singing along is the most insane thing I've ever seen in hip hop. That smile while saying, I hear you like I'm young, was legendary. And somebody here said, are you afraid to say it? Having all black dancers draped in the flag colors and disassembling periodically symbolizes this country was built on the backs of black people. Sam Jackson being Uncle Sam and getting upset at how Kendrick is performing is essentially how America reacted when he was named the halftime show artist. Even other hip-hop artists being upset and a sign of them not supporting Dot when he was given the show. Quote unquote, is too ghetto. Sam Jackson is literally everyone on this app describing the performance because it's not your typical American music, which is ironic due to the history of hip-hop. Kendrick then going into Not Like Us after that and sent the shot at Drake shows that he doesn't care about anything but the culture. The performance was a shot at American culture and quote-unquote approval more than it was at Drake. Don't hint at nothing if you're too afraid to say it. And as further proof of the political/cultural divide in this country as it pertains to how people felt and how they viewed the Kendrick Lamar halftime performance, I want you to take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say and how hyped he was about the performance and the stark contrast the white gentleman here had about the performance.
I gave him an A for one reason and one reason only, because he played that record. That's why I gave him an A. Yes, I said, now before I go any further, fellas, I was on Good Morning America Friday morning. They were interviewing me before, obviously I was on Good Morning America. Here's what I had to say. Y'all got to see this because I said it before it happened. Listen to this. Not Like Us took him to another level. You have to at least play that beat. The crowd, that's not just on national television, but in attendance, has to hear that music from the song playing.
But
it has to happen.
You're not expecting Drake on the stage?
Like Rebecca?
I'm not expecting Drake in the country.
Yeah, I think, well, one, I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. I gave it an A+ because the first thing is, it's actually very difficult for a rapper to do a show of that magnitude. Yeah. Normally, rappers don't create and choreograph in that way.
Why we let Dan come in? This ain't no Michael Bublé.
I know.
This ain't no Sam Shepard.
There you can try. There you can try. There you can try, man.
Hey, the song is appropriate. Not like us. Not like us.
Hey, if it was Chris Stapleton, Dan would be all on this.
There we go.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey, RC, you're talking, and I was the first going to come out with, hey, Kwaku, who's the producer, why you have me go last? And then I was thinking, what the heck y'all want me to say after RC just riddled that off? But, yo, I'm not going to lie. I had one of my boys text me last night, and he texted me, he said, I wish it would have been Morgan Wallen or Zach Bryan. And I was like, you are so white.
Now, what are my thoughts? Before that show started, I actually said that this could go down as the greatest or the most viewed Super Bowl halftime performance of all time. And even though that could still be the case, a lot of people was not rocking with it. Now, I feel very conflicted for multiple reasons. I feel conflicted for once. I truly believe that a lot of the people that did not like the show are older and or they're just white, conservative, and even in some cases white liberal individuals they aren't tapped into Kendrick Lamar's music. And I do believe some of it is rooted in racism. I don't think a lot of it is. I think a lot of them also just don't like rap. I think they prefer other genres, which I don't think is necessarily racist. I think in some cases it is. I also believe they have a good point because a lot of people was making the argument that the performance was not that good because Kendrick Lamar, you could barely hear and make out what he was saying. Even though some so-called black people was also making the argument that even the songs that they knew, they could barely hear what he was saying. It almost sounded like he was running over his words. And some people was complaining about the audio from the mic itself, which has been a complaint in the past about the Super Bowl. Another complaint that Kendrick Lamar has received, even from his fans, was the soundtrack.
Kendrick Lamar, what are your thoughts, man?
His perform. I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with the halftime show.
Yeah, I mean, it started a little slow.
I saw it live.
Okay.
It probably was better on television. From watching it live,
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy too much. I don't think he played hits. When you go to, when a star perform at a Super Bowl show, you wanna sing along with them.
Yeah.
We sung along on Not Like Us, but that was for a very short second.
I was even surprised the amount of songs that Kendrick Lamar decided to perform from the GNX album. I was very shocked he didn't do We Gonna Be Alright. I really expected that one. I know a lot of white people wouldn't have liked that song. I was also very shocked that he didn't do Money Trees. I don't think that that's also a song that you should do because a lot of your fan base likes that song, but also because it's a little bit more pop and people can like catch along to it instead of it being super, super hip hop, which doesn't, not that it's Kendrick's job to unite people, but I think it would have been a more enjoyable show for everybody there if he had done more of those records. So I was actually very surprised that he didn't do that myself. I thought the performance was underwhelming for multiple reasons that I've already listed. I just thought he should have done I thought he shouldn't have done as many songs from the GNX album. But let me get to the biggest problem that I had with the halftime performance. People are forgetting Kendrick Lamar is not who people think he is. He is an occultist. I've said that many times on this channel. A lot of you all have heard me say this. I was just saying it the other day about the Grammys. But there's going to be a lot of people that watch this video that are new viewers to the channel. And they've never heard me say this. Kendrick Lamar, I know a lot of his music. He's an occultist. He claims to believe in God. He claims to also believe in the people. But you cannot believe in God and believe in the people and support abortion. You can't do it. You have to pick one. This right here, what you're looking at, is a performance that's, one, is blasphemous because he's wearing a crown of thorns with diamonds encrusted in this crown of thorns, which is blasphemous because, as we know, a lot of you all are going to argue, no, his album, The Big Step, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, was him arguing the point that he's not your savior. That's a lie. And you know it's a lie not only from the fact that he's dressing himself up to be Jesus, but you also know it's a lie when you look at the lyrics. When you look at the lyrics from the song, from several of his songs, he's portraying himself to being his own God. When you look at the record here, he said, I am the Omega. PG Lane, Rolling Gang, SIE, don't you address me unless it's with 4 letters. I guess the 4 letters supposed to represent maybe GOAT, him being the GOAT. But look at what he said at the very beginning. I am the Omega. When you go to the scriptures, whether you're a Christian or not, we all know that God is the Alpha and the Omega. How are you claiming to be the Omega while also saying that you're not a person's savior? We all know that that's a contradiction. We also know when you go to the song Reincarnated, he is saying a lot of things that is alluding to self-worship. In one of his songs, he literally calls himself Lucifer, Satan himself. In the same song where he said that I am the Omega, if you go a little bit farther down, he also says before you get to the Father, you gotta holler at me first. We all know that Jesus Christ says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to the Father is by me. Kendrick Lamar here says, no, before you get to the Father, you gotta holler at me first. That's what Kendrick Lamar said. Only occultists talk that way. When you look at this performance here, first and foremost, just by looking at it, we know that this is demonic. Why is his eyes completely blacked out? What is he talking about here? What about this performance is bringing people closer to God? What about this performance is holy or righteous? Not that Kendrick says that he is a righteous person, but you are not leading anybody in the right direction with symbolism like this. He also has a song with Jeezy and J. Cole called The American Dream. And at the end of Kendrick's verse, he says, I gotta rely what is known to the traveling man. Said it's known, got my Bible and my rifle in my hand. Oh yeah. Why is this important? I wouldn't have known this and it wouldn't have stood out to me outside of the fact that my friend about 3 years ago, we were hanging out one time at this bar and I shook his hand. And I guess it was something I did that shook his hand a little different that day. And he frowned at me and he said, are you a traveling man? And I was like, he said, why'd you shake my hand like that? And I was like, I don't know, bro. I was just shaking your hand like normal. He said, okay, I thought, no. I was like, what do you mean by traveling man? He said, oh, and he looked around. He said, I'm a Freemason. And so the way you shook my hand, I thought you was communicating something to me. And it freaked me out. So I knew when I heard this, I have reason to believe that Kendrick Lamar is also a Freemason puppet. He is controlled opposition. People think that he's a conscious rapper, but he's sending you conflicted messages. He's sending you messages in one sense that's talking about doing well, doing good, and then in the majority of his music, if you just listen to what he's actually talking about, he's glorifying. He's not just talking about it. He's glorifying the gang culture and the gang lifestyle. That's the truth. Why is this important? Because as much from a hip hop perspective, because I'm a hypocrite as a human being, as a hardcore hip hop fan, raised up in a household to love hip hop, that's tearing and pulling at my heartstrings. But the Christian in me, the follower of Jesus Christ, and the person that has a conscience and common sense, I know what Kendrick Lamar represents is demonic. Because at the end of the day, he would not have had that halftime performance show if he didn't have the song Not Like Us. Which in one sense, that's why I feel conflicted. In one sense, he's raising awareness to pedophiles. As we know, human trafficking is a really big problem in this country. But at the same time, the song is about hate. It's not just about calling Drake out for that. It's about a rap beef. Do we want that to be the center stage of a Super Bowl halftime performance? Or do we want something more about unity? Something that makes us feel good, not just about destructive rap beefs. I just want to bring that to people's attention because we have to understand that the people who own these record labels, when you're talking about Vanguard and BlackRock, all these different places and conglomerates, they have a purpose. I have reason to believe they're all Freemasons. They have a purpose and they have to get people in line. How do they do it? They do it through the celebrities, right? They do it through the people who are the new Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings and the people. The way that they controlled us before was through them. The celebrities are now the people that they control. That's how you control messages. Kendrick Lamar is no different. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had that platform. Who allowed him to do that? Jay-Z, who is literally facing allegations himself. So if Kendrick Lamar was really about what he's talking about, then Kendrick Lamar would be calling out Jay-Z on this platform, or he would have just rejected it and wanted nothing to do with Jay-Z. But he didn't do that. And I thought this tweet right here by Kanye was extremely interesting because while I think Kanye West has controlled opposition as well, and while I also don't think that Kendrick Lamar should be giving any shout out to Puffy, I also think it's interesting that he said while one man is in jail, another man is at the Super Bowl halftime show or at the Super Bowl. Who was he talking about there? He was talking about Jay-Z. But Kendrick Lamar had nothing to say about that, which is further proof that he's really not against the agenda. He's really not against the system the way that he says that he is. Y'all up in the comment section, let me know what you think. I wanted to provide my thoughts. I'm Demetrius. I go by DD. That's all for this one, man. Until next time. Peace.
Oh, yeah. DD got a podcast.